Hi, Happy New Year. Vanessa Warwick welcoming you to the very first edition in '91 of Europe's heaviest rock show. And I'm proud to say that tonight's very special guest is none other than one of rock's premier frontmen, David Lee Roth. I'll be talking to Dave all about his brand new album, A Little Ain't Enough, and we'll also be seeing the video for the first time anywhere in Europe, along with brand new clips from Iron Maiden, Tiger Tails and Valentine. It may be a new year, but nothing's changed. It's the show that's more than metal, Headbangers Ball. Yeah, it's the very first Headbangers Ball of 1991, and I'm delighted to say that our very special guest is none other than Dave Lee Roth. Hi, Dave.
How are you, Vanessa?
I'm fine, thank you. Happy New Year to you.
And a Happy New Year to you, too.
Now, we're here to talk about your brand new album, A Little Ain't Enough, and you took a couple of years off before going in to record the album, and you had rather a few adventures, didn't you? What have you been up to?
Well, Vanessa, when it's time for me to leave the road and leave the studio, then I am truly gone. There's a lot of rock and rollers, a lot of whatever actors or what have you, who can't stand to leave the public spotlight for even a brief moment, lest the public somehow forget, you know, or somehow that your self-esteem is going to dissolve away or what have you. And I've always felt that as much as I enjoy the spotlight, and yes I do, that I cannot create under a microscope. And if you know people are watching what you're doing, if you're in the spotlight, then it's going to change the way you behave. I'll give you an example. Suppose you're sitting in the movie, okay? You're watching the movie and suddenly becomes apparent to you that there are 20 people watching your every move, okay? Mm-hmm. And now your butt starts to itch. Now you got a lot to think about, don't you? It changes the way you think, it changes the way you act, it changes what suddenly you're not watching the movie anymore and so forth. I can't write songs this way. I can't make an album this way. I can't come up with the new stage show this way. So when I leave the road, I take some pretty extravagant trips off to the fifth farthest corner of the world, what have you, and try and stay hidden as much as possible. A couple of buddies of mine and I went up to the Himalayas. This time we got up to 23,000 feet. And my girlfriend and I went paddling in a handmade outrigger canoe down in the South Pacific. We did close to 100 miles on open water there. And, you know, and you navigate by the stars and, you know, go off by the compass and everything. But like I used to tell my old psychiatrist when I was in the child guidance clinic when I was a kid, when you always travel in the fog, you don't need no compass.
Now, in some ways, the album's biographical, isn't it?
I would imagine just about every album for anybody is biographical, whether you want it to be or not.
There's a lovely line in there, I'm 2 parts diamond, 3 parts dirt.
Vanessa, that goes, some folks say 3 parts dirt. I like to think so. But yes, it's all biographical. It's all, you know, what I see on the streets, what I see on the television screen, you know, what I see on people's feet and what people are wearing and what have you, and how it relates to me, what my general take on it is. And there's always a little sense of humor to that and a little bit of ponderance there, and maybe a little blues edge to it, what have you, but definitely biographical.
Great. Well, we're going to see the video now for the first time ever in Europe. Would you introduce it for us?
Ladies and gentlemen, direct from Hollywood after 2 years of no work, David Lee Roth says, A Little Ain't Enough.
Okay, just a little while ago we saw the brand new video from Dave Lee Roth. All those girls, Dave. Do you not think that's a little bit cliche for 1991?
Oh, I don't think so at all, Vanessa. I don't think it's sexist or chauvinistic or anything like that. I think what it is a reference to the old Busby Berkeley, the Flo Ziegfeld days. It's a reference to the Rockettes, you know, from Radio City Music Hall. And you'll notice that all of the girls pretty much are pretty placid in the scenes. That draws your attention more to the graphic of the scene, what's happening there as far as the colors, you know, what I'm doing, and especially in conjunction with the lyric, what you're hearing with the lyric. It's not about putting women in cages and with whips and chains and that kind of thing. That only comes from rock stars who are afraid of girls.
Basically, it's, you seem to be having a really good time in that video, and also on the album I felt that sense of fun really came across. Is that more important to you than kind of studio perfection? Is Dave Lee Roth all about having a good time?
Rock and roll was never about perfection. There is no such thing as perfection. You can get as far as better than everybody else put together, but then even then you're never sure. You can't compete in music. I think what it is that you got to have a sense of fury, and you got to temper it with a little sense of humor. Just a little sense of humor, because he who laughs lasts, you know? And if you do that, then you have balance. Then it's real. Because I know, you know, when I see somebody on the street and it's all, hey, you know, well, how do you feel when you see somebody at the local pub, whatever, and they're just putting it to you about how tough they are, how bad they are? What do you think? What's your reaction? Mine too.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, maybe rock music's got a little bit too serious recently.
I don't think recently, I think for all time. There's always been a major, the larger faction of musicians take them very seriously, just like politicians take themselves very seriously. Don't get me wrong, I take what I do very seriously as an artist. And what I do with my team, the band, and on the road stuff, I take as serious as a train wreck. It's what other people think of me that I don't take seriously at all.
Right. Okay, well, it's time for more music now, and we're going to see another rather fun band. Here's the brand new video from Tiger Tails. Hi, welcome back to Headbangers Ball, and we just can't seem to get enough of Dave Lee Roth. Now, Dave, many young bands claim to be influenced by Van Halen. Have you found yourself being influenced by anything new recently, or are you still influenced by your original?
Not even slightly. My vision has always been to take the very best classic traditional from the past, whether that's, like I said, Busby Berkeley or the blues. Let's combine it with a bold Technicolor vision of the future, and let's skip the present altogether. I've found that most people, given their own device, will choose to copy the next guy. And that's when music sort of stagnates. I want to take the music further. Let's take the show a little further. I'm curious when bands pick up on the old Van Halen style. A lot of bands claim that they've picked up on it, but generally what they picked up on is a pair of pants or a haircut, and that's about it, you know. They lose the general spirit, and the best for me usually when I see a band copying and it doesn't turn into tragedy, I feel like the guy driving down the highway who passes a car wreck and is relieved to know nobody was killed. That is at best. And it usually happens on what I call the red shorts theory, which is this. If you imagine 100 people running down the street in a road race, and one of them is in front, 99 are in back, 99 in back, go, how come Ray is in front of the pack all the time? He's wearing red shorts. Cut to the next race, you see 99 people in red shorts. Ray is still in front. They go, it must be the shoes. And it's like, keep getting it wrong, slightly to the left of center, getting it wrong, that kind of a thing. It's the spirit of Van Halen that transcended all else. Transcended the music, transcended the videos, transcended the stage show, transcended even my voice. And that's a pretty dramatic job.
But in many ways, in your solo career, you've kind of gone full circle, and now you're getting back more to the early Van Halen style yourself on this record, aren't you?
Baby, I was the early Van Halen style. I wrote half of every song you heard from Van Halen, sometimes more than that. So naturally, there's going to be a link. Naturally, there's going to be a lyrical link, and that's that sentiment, the spirit, yeah. And same thing with the stage and what you see on the screen, and like, oh, a very definite link. I'm proud of what I did with Van Halen, and I don't try to shunt it aside. So many people do instead of, hey, now I'm this instead of that, you know, and it's like, oh, come on, let's all do it in addition too. Let's continue to do this, but let's add a little to the soup.
Okay, that's great. Now we're going to see some more music. Okay, we've got another short break coming up, but after that, Dave and I will be back to take a look at some of the bands who ran into legal problems last year, and we'll also be talking about the problems that Dave had with his new album cover. Nothing quite as drastic for you, Dave, but you were forced to change the album cover pretty much at the 11th hour, weren't you? What happened there?
Well, Vanessa, I've been battling the censors for years. Every time we release a new album cover, a new video, a new stage show, whatever, somebody takes great, they flip out, you know, and it's going to continue on. It's always going to be that way. Every television station censors the videos. Every television station. Everybody, every police station in the world is worried about somebody showing their backside or somebody saying the F word to their children or what have you, you know, and on and on. I don't think that's ever going to change. And I've never based my career on one little thing. It's you know, if you have musical garbage like Luke Skywalker and the 2 Live Crew, well then yeah, you have to have something controversial or you're not going to sell any records, you know. They're totally dependent on that. No controversy, no 2 Live Crew. It's that simple. But I've never based my career on something like that. If you don't like the album cover, you want to hassle me about the album cover, fine. I can come up with 30 other ones that are equally as perverse, but in a whole different direction. Same thing for on stage, or the same thing for the video. Somebody gets uptight and says we can't play the video because of a scene. We cut the scene, we lose the scene. It's not a big premise that everything has to stay exactly as it was. Because a lot of this is kind of group participation created art anyways.
But it must be very frustrating for you as an artist to have to suffer that.
I could care less. I got plenty of ideas, and it's just a matter of trying to get them onto tape and get them on the screen. You don't like one? Honey, we change it.
Okay, well we're going to see a video now from one of those bad boys of rock, and it's the Red Hot Chili Peppers with Knock Me Down. Now Dave, Bob Rock produced your album, A Little Ain't Enough, and actually here he's going to be producing the next Metallica album, but why did you choose him?
I chose Bob Rock because I'm never quite sure if it's the boxer in the middle of the ring or if it's the guy in the corner with the bucket and the brush screaming lead with your left. You're never quite sure who's really doing the fighting there, who's really winning. And I always felt that Bob Rock had the best sentiment towards coaching a performance out of an artist. I've heard him coach some tremendous performances out of some very mediocre artists, and I'm not going to name them, but that right there is a quality move, and you got to salute that. Also, Bob Rock has the ability to produce with high fidelity, something that has bombastic, bigger-than-life kind of sound, and he also has the capacity to produce material that's very true to life, very real, very live, you know. And that was the tack that we took. Very live, very off the floor. Most of what you're hearing on this new record is between the first and third take, you know. Vocals, guitar leads, guitar solos, what have you. And a lot of people will go into the studio and try to compose there, but everything conspires against you. You know, the humidity conspires against you, that you're out of town and you have jet lag, that you just had a fight with the girlfriend over the phone, or whatever the case may be. It all conspires to distract you. And working with Bob Rock was a very focused kind of thing. Bob has a very good direct line on a natural sound. I think that's what we got.
Great. Now you also collaborated with various different songwriters on the album. Can you tell us who you worked with?
Whoa, collaboration, it's the pendulum swang from one extreme to the other. Is characters like Craig Goldie, who used to play with Ronnie James Dio and this kind of cast of characters, and people like Robbie Neville, who really have nothing to do with power rock or big rock. His spirit does, but the music that he generally writes doesn't. But what we came up with, A Little Ain't Enough, I wrote with Robbie Neville. You would never expect this kind of music. That's part of the thrill, the unpredictable finish, man. That's adventure. Okay, that's why we signed up for this job.
Okay, now you're going to be on tour in Europe in February. Can you give us some more details, staging, production?
Boy, oh boy, 22 countries, about 500,000, 1 million of our closest friends, and on and on. The kind of tricks and things that we do on stage starts with the music. If you can't do it in a white t-shirt and a pair of jeans under one white light bulb, then you can't do it. And there are a lot of jaspers who go out there, they make a few dollars, and they're gonna rent the smoke bomb and rent the laser beam and do the big balloon drop. But in effect, all you're doing is hiring a fireman to push a button and explode the smoke bomb and run the smoke. You don't even have to be in the arena at that point. And for half of the bands out there, it's probably better if they don't show up. I'd really rather watch the light show and watch the smoke bombs and the statues and what have you. But it's got to start with the music. It's got to, if you can do it inside your own pants or outside of them, as the case may be, then that's a great start. All the rest is icing, and I love icing. I know you do too. But I want you all right now to just imagine yourself with a mouthful of nothing but icing. Yeah, that's my man. That's what I think too.
And you've got a new band together as well, haven't you?
Oh, you bet. We got rhythm guitar for the first time, added a rhythm guitar. Simply to avoid all of the overdub nonsense in the studio. It's a viable, perfect way to go about recording, but not for me. Mine is best live, Ensemble Raw. And also, part and parcel of the same thing is for the stage. When you go on stage and you've gone and overdubbed all kinds of rhythm parts, and suddenly they're not there on stage because you've got one guitar player, Well, don't you wish you could pay half the ticket price at that point? You're only getting half the music.
So you're basically going to get the same on stage as you do with the album?
You're going to get more.
Brilliant. Okay, and Warrant are going to be supporting Dave in Europe. That's great. Okay, now we've got a video coming up from a band who were also very much part of the kind of new wave of heavy rock that happened when Van Halen were happening back in the late 70s, and that is Aerosmith. Okay, now Dave and I thought we'd take a look back at some of a few reminders of 1990.
The biggest surprise hit of 1990 was provided by the long-running Australian band AC/DC, whose 14th album, The Razor's Edge, literally rocketed to the top of the charts. What was the secret of this unexpected success?
We've always remained the same. I don't think we've ever really looked for outside influence. I don't know why. Maybe we should.
Influences abounded elsewhere on the metal scene, though. A wave of neo-psychedelic grunge from Seattle, an ongoing funk metal fusion in the San Francisco Bay Area, futuristic speed crunch from the Northeast, and even some turbocharged Beatleisms. If metal was unusually big this year, it was also a big target. At one point, New York's publicity-loving John Cardinal O'Connor claimed that metal acts such as Ozzy Osbourne actually promoted Satanism.
I'm not a Satanist. I don't worship the devil, and it takes me all my time to conjure myself out of bed in the morning, let alone conjure the devil up.
As big as hard rock music was in 1990, though, the general run of hard rock lyrics had little that was new to say. Unskinny Bop, the Poison hit, was typical.
The story came from a situation with Cece. I walked in on him and these two girls having a rather interesting early rehearsal, and but that's what the song, and the rest of it I leave for the imagination. You know?
One hard rocker, ex-David Lee Roth sideman Steve Vai, sidestepped this predicament by scoring an instrumental hit. Others came up with something substantial to talk about, like Queensryche, whose top 10 album Empire dealt with some of the hard choices facing young people in a society built upon instant gratification.
Everyone wants things now. It's very hard to be patient and wait, you know, because everything, all the information now comes at you so quickly.
In general, the harder rock was this year, the bigger an audience it found. A case in point was Megadeth, which scored with a blistering LP called Rust in Peace. This band's secret?
You know, when I write music, I think about, like, sex, you know, and violence. It's kind of Clockwork Orange, but, you know, it works.
So metal was stronger than ever this year, a fact that was celebrated at the 10th annual Monsters of Rock Festival at Castle Donington in England, a show that covered everything from the music's roots to its future, which seems pretty much guaranteed by the undying loyalty of its fans.
Oh yes, some of my favourites there. Now, was there anything in rock music in 1990, any issue or event that really interested you, Dave?
Well, you see power rock music coming back into vogue as far as being on the radio, onto the charts, like, you know, he's just saying. And that's curious, that there's always an action-reaction kind of syndrome going on. You know, once the dance music begins to glut the airwaves, then of course the power rock is going to come, and you're going to have the Faith No Mores and the Living Colours and the Dave Roths and so forth taking their place at the top of the charts until we glut the charts. And then it's going to be dance music again, or somebody's going to come along and say, hey, I just discovered this new guy with wild hair from Jamaica, and his name's Reggie, and pretty soon everybody's listening to Reggie music. So, you know, on and on. There's been a whole variety of, you know, things going on in the news as far as, you know, the Judas Priest, you know, situation. I think that's nonsense. There's a bunch of BS, you know, this whole thing about backwards devil messages or whatnot, you know. I put a backwards devil message on my last album. You gotta rewind it, and it says, big echoey voice, obey your parents. And use a condom.
Great.
I don't think anybody will listen.
Now we're going to see the brand new video from a band who recently completed a very successul tour in 1990.
And they do use condoms.
And all the signs are that 91 is going to be even better for them, if that's possible. Here's Iron Maiden with Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter.
And obey your parents.
So that was Iron Maiden with their brand new single, which went straight into the UK charts at #1 this week. What a great start for rock music in '91. Now, Dave, you'd be interested to know that despite being #1 in Britain, they have not been playlisted on national radio, not one single play. What do you think of that?
I don't think that's anything unusual. Anytime you get any kind of ultra extreme, hyper extreme music, whether it's power rock or wild rap music or whatever, then it's not going to make it onto the nation's playlist. It's just not played on radio because it's not safe. It's not predictable. And once there are millions and millions of people who make it predictable and safe by virtue of buying it, well then of course the radio or the television stations or whoever will catch up. You'll find little pockets. You'll find new music here. You'll find it in little pockets of outlying radio stations and what have you. But I think you're going to see more of that. And I think it's great that Iron Maiden hits it in at #1, if for no other reason than because it gives inspiration to a lot of other people who may be playing music or whatnot that is not specific chart music at the present time. And you run into situations like Neil Young's video, This Note's For You, which was never played on MTV in the United States, and it won Video of the Year. You're going to see these kinds of things, I think, a little more often because there is more media, there's more attention to new art, and a whole lot of what is really acceptable these days is really boring. So you're going to see a whole lot of new things and extreme things coming up soon, I think.
And what new and extreme things do you think we're going to see in rock music in '91? Any predictions?
Well, you're going to see me go right through the old church ceiling. And probably a whole lot of characters, following suit. It's going to be extreme, and I think you're going to see a whole lot more guitar rock. I think you're going to see it climbing up into the charts there. You're gonna see it in at least the United States. You'll see more of it in the south of the United States, the south of the U.S., and ultimately you'll see it in the upper U.S.
Great, yeah. It's really, really great to be seeing bands like Iron Maiden and Anthrax in the charts. Good for them. Now, coming up now, we've got the debut video from an American band who could make their mark in 1991. They're called Valentine. Kerrang! Magazine awarded their self-titled debut album 5 out of 5, so you can't get much better than that. See what you think. Here's the first single, No Way. Okay, after the break, we'll be moving on to the final part of Headbangers Ball. You got it, the Metal Collection, chosen for us this week by our very special guest, David Lee Roth. And Dave will be back in a moment to introduce his selection of favourite videos. So all that remains for me to say is thank you very much, Dave.
Well, thank you, Vanessa.
And I want to wish you luck with the album and the tour. Very much look forward to seeing you over here. So stand by for Dave coming back, and Headbangers Ball will be rocking with Dave's Metal Collection right after this.
David Lee Roth here, still here, and we're about to walk it like we talk it right here on Headbangers Ball, and we're going to kick it off for the brand new year with a little bit of Guns N' Roses. God bless y'all, Europe. Good to see you, and I'll see you on tour.